Well, thank you for joining us here today on America's Voice Live. We appreciate you being here, of course. The country's largest teachers union now backing critical race theory, but the controversial curriculum gaining more and more opposition on the right and in the middle and even on the left. It's been a huge topic at the Turning Point Student Action Summit over the weekend. My next guest has filed a lawsuit, in fact, against Florida International University's College of Law, the state of Florida, and the U.S. Department of Education for $25 million. Joining me now is the founder of Constitutional Warriors PAC, Christy McLaughlin. Christy, good to have you here. Tell us about the lawsuit and your decision to file it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. My decision to file a lawsuit against Florida International University and the Department of Education stems from the fact that colleges and universities are essentially the gatekeepers of who gets an education, who gets a degree, who gets a career, and who has a voice in this country. And we have seen years and years of pervasive indoctrination, retaliation, and discrimination occurring against conservative students, particularly in higher education like colleges and universities. But worse than that, the Department of Education does nothing about it. Their interest is not to protect students. So although my case, I still experience ongoing harm, this case is the poster child of conservative students being discriminated against, and it's trying to protect and ensure that no other student has to live through what I've gone through.
So what do you think you can accomplish here? I mean, obviously, critical race theory has been a lightning rod, to say the least. We've seen what happened in Loudoun County, Virginia, a lot of parents turning out. Parents of all persuasions, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, doesn't matter, speaking back against this, saying this is teaching people to hate each other. It's teaching history that's been disproven and debunked, if you will. So it's... to say it's controversial is not stating it strongly enough, I believe.
Right. To say it's controversial is taking it very, very lightly. What I just mentioned with the indoctrination and the left-leaning curriculum that occurs in education, what we're seeing with parents, and I don't care what background they are, I don't care what diverse cultural background they have, we are Americans first, and we need to have America first education. Education should not be controversial, it should not be biased, it should simply be preparing students to be ready for the workforce.
Yeah, it should be preparing kids to be ready for the workforce. It should be teaching them critical thinking skills, not what they should think. But yet there's more and more of this. There's more indoctrination on a variety of topics. It's not just about American history. It's about a lot of parents would say that the sexualization of children comes at a very young age, also supported by the unions. I guess my question is, how important is it when you get back to the foundational principles of the local school board? I think a lot of people miss going to the school board elections. They don't pay attention to what's going on and then just assume that what they were taught in school about George Washington or George Washington Carver or whatever it might be, that they're being taught all of the same things, the good, the bad, and the ugly, but not in a way that shows America as being this hateful, racist nation that's unfair, which obviously, if it were, you wouldn't have 188,000 people coming across the border last month. They obviously know what it's like here. They want to be part of it. And yet we allow our own children to be taught something terribly different, don't we?
Right. So the education system, the Department of Education, has such a disparate amount of power over students. And what needs to happen on the local level, the state level, the federal level, for all of education, I'm talking from kindergarten even through college, we need to bring the rights back to the students. As long as students and parents have more rights in their education, including perhaps a property interest in their education and matriculation on the higher education level, then we can ensure that education institutions are being held accountable and they can't act with impunity in bad faith trying to push a leftist agenda.
So schools of choice would be a big part of that. If the money follows the child and doesn't just go to the school district, schools of choice would be a critical part of that overall plan, right? And yet we know that the teachers' unions totally oppose schools of choice, even though in inner cities where schools have had challenges and schools of choice have allowed students to excel in places they otherwise would not have, they get shut down, they get targeted, even though we know that students in certain places would do so much better given the opportunity. It just seems to me that too often the unions are looking out for the unions and not for the students.
Absolutely. The unions, the Department of Education, the state departments of education are all looking out to protect the schools and the teachers and the administration, not the students. I am a huge proponent of school choice. In fact, when I was young, I was homeschooled. I tried every form of education. I did public school, private school, and for my high school years, I did homeschooling. And I consider myself better for it because my education was tailored towards me, the student.
So what do you expect to happen from the lawsuit then, Christy? I mean, how far do you go with this? It's just been filed, I assume. There's a point where it could be dismissed, the early phases of such a civil tort action. What do you expect? What's your timetable?
Well, actually, it's very interesting. This lawsuit has been filed for a year now. Our anniversary was just a couple days ago, and we were dismissed on the lower level, and now we're on appeal. So I want people to think about what is happening in our education system right now. If a student gets retaliated against or targeted for her conservative values like I was at Florida International University, I can't go to the school for protection. I can't go to the Department of Education for protection because they have claimed to be investigating it for 4 years and no result has ever come of that. And the courts are now dismissing the cases saying students have no rights. Why do students not have any rights to protect themselves against constitutional violations like freedom of speech? We need to ensure with this lawsuit that this case gives students a property interest in which they have a right to due process if a school tries to remove them for political retaliatory reasons.
Well, there you go. Christy McLaughlin, she is the founder of the Constitutional Warriors PAC. We'll keep an eye on this lawsuit. We'll get an update from you sometime in the near future. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.